Hello, I'm Corey Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critimation, where I review animated TV shows and films. As always, I do not own any of these films or shows. They are properties of their respected owners. For this special Halloween episode, we will start with the classic film Mad Monster Party. Released in 1967 by Rankin Bass Studios, the studio behind several classic Christmas specials that were done in stop motion, such as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This one stood out to me because it was not just a parody of classic monster movies, but also one of the few Halloween productions that were done before it really caught on in recent years. As far as being as commercial as Christmas, the film's Dr. Frankenstein, who ironically is played by Boris Karloff, who originated the role of Frankenstein's monster 3 decades prior, creates a formula that is pretty much the atomic bomb in liquid form. After creating the recipe for destruction, he decides to retire and brings in all the monsters who are riffs off of the likes of Dracula and the Wolfman, among others, to announce that his successor will be his nephew, Felix Frankenstein. Frankenstein then sends an invite to Felix, who is unaware of his own legacy. Once arrived, Felix is very reluctant, and to make matters worse, several of the monsters wanting the formula for themselves try to kill him. Among them is Francesca, an attractive woman who is actually another one of the Doctor's own creations, though she looks more human than monster due to being a robot on the inside. After a series of comical shenanigans in trying to get rid of Felix, going as far as to summon the Thing, who is a King Kong parody, Frankenstein then uses the formula to destroy all the monsters, as well as himself, in order to protect Felix, who escapes with the reformed Francesca, who has fallen in love with him. The movie takes a riff off of several things that are horror film related, including the zombie butler Yench, who is a caricature of Peter Lorre from Casablanca. In addition, the script and character designs were provided by artists and writers from Mad Magazine, explaining why the film itself is a parody of the genre. I would recommend this film to not just people who are into satires of the horror genre, but also those who appreciate stop motion, which, even with Laika bringing interest back into it, is still very underappreciated due to CGI animation becoming more dominant in today's film culture. As well as to those of Boris Karloff fans, as this would be one of his last projects to even have any connection to the Frankenstein mythos that he originated with Universal in the 1930s. Our next topic will be Daffy Duck's Quack Busters. This compilation film is basically a bunch of old cartoons from the 1950s with wraparound footage to try to make a cohesive story. The film itself is a parody of the Ghostbusters franchise, which was at the height of its popularity during the 1980s. The film actually begins with a standalone short called Night of the Living Duck, and it has Daffy Duck dream that he's performing for a bunch of pop culture monsters before waking up from the nightmare. The film itself begins with a struggling Daffy Duck trying to make his way as a business salesman, after causing millionaire Cubish to die laughing, quite literally. And as a result, Cubish leaves his fortune to Daffy, who in turn must use it for an honest cause. If he does it, Cubish's ghost will return to take the money with him. Daffy then decides that since he's part of the public that's being affected, he will, in a word, hunt ghosts, hence the fact that this film is a Ghostbusters parody. After recruiting Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, and to an extent Sylvester, the trio then go on various assignments which make up the majority of the archive cartoons featured. Eventually, Daffy Duck is so dishonest that he loses his whole fortune and therefore his company as well, setting him back to where he started. Only this time, Cubish continues to haunt him and take any money that he earns. While there's been at least 4 other compilation films featuring the Looney Tunes, this one is perhaps the best out of them because it was the final Looney Tune performance of Mel Blanc before he died about a year after this film was released. And while the characters' voices in the wraparound footage definitely sounds different, partially because they did not alter it enough to make it sound like the archive cartoons' voices, such is the case with Porky Pig, who doesn't have the high-pitched voice in the original footage, I still consider this a must-watch for any longtime Looney Tunes fan, as it was the swan song for a legend in voice acting. The archive cartoons that are featured include The Prize Pest, Water Water Every Hair, Hide and Go Treat, and about 3 or 4 others. Most of them were originally directed by Chuck Jones, who frankly wasn't a fan of the film, possibly because it was a parody or because they tried to use stuff that already existed to try to make a cohesive story. Nonetheless, I would recommend this to any Looney Tunes fan, as it is not just a best of compilation film, but also the end of an era where the legendary Mel Blanc provided the voices to the iconic characters that he had done since around the 1940s. Our last film that we will be covering is entitled Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. While not the traditional Scooby-Doo adventure, as the majority of the gang are absent, leaving only Scooby, Shaggy, and the infamous Scrappy-Doo present, it is often credited for starting the trend of Ghouls for Monsters-based shows like Monster High and the Pixar movie Monsters University. The film involves Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy becoming gym teachers at Miss Grimwood's finishing school for ghouls. The students are Sabella the Vampire, Winnie the Werewolf, Elsa Frankenteen, Phantasma the Phantom, and Tanis the Mummy. With the help of the gang, the girls are able to win a volleyball match against their rival school, Colonel Calloway's Military Academy for Boys. Unbeknownst to everyone, the Spider Witch, Revolta, plans to capture the girls and turn them into her minions to take over the world. After using one of her spider bats to hypnotize Shaggy into luring the girls into a trap, they get captured and the gang have to go rescue them at her castle. After much difficulty and a run-in with a meal monster who temporarily replaces Shaggy, the gang is able to rescue the girls, and with the Military Academy boys' help, are able to make a getaway as the castle explodes in flames. The film ends with the gang receiving some new students, which in turn scares them off, and they leave bidding the school and its students a spooky goodbye. Originally released for television as part of Hanna-Barbera's Superstars 10 film series in 1988, the made-for-TV film, while conflicting between 2 different plot lines, has become a bit of a fan favorite for me, and even inspired a pitch I did during a Project City class that will hopefully be made into a TV show, the main difference being that it's a summer camp for monsters rather than a school. And while not the best Scooby-Doo movie, It definitely stood out and has earned a cult following, as the characters that appear in the film would eventually go on to make a guest appearance in an episode of OKKO Let's Be Heroes, where it's revealed that one of the main characters, Eden, the witch in training turned ninja, was a former student at Grimwood's finishing school. And the episode involves her having a school reunion with the cast of the film. I would recommend this film to people who are wondering where the whole school for monster cliche came from, and are looking for obscure Scooby-Doo films that don't match the typical mystery formula. However, I would not recommend this to people based on the same reasons if they're not into that sort of thing and prefer the classic Scooby-Doo formula instead. Not to mention the fact that Scrappy-Doo is in the film. Thanks for tuning in to Critimation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. I'm open to suggestions, and I will see you next time.